Alright, let's have a look at how to install PD Pro Artist Edition. This is Project Dogwafle Artist, the version 8.2b. And before we install, one thing I recommend is that you uninstall. So click on the Start menu and go to All Programs, and then find your Project Dogwafle Artist if you already have one installed. Now, this is not an absolute must-do, but it's going to help and it's going to be easier to install the new one, especially if you don't know where the current one is installed. You don't want to install the new one on top of this one. It's probably okay to keep it in separate folders, but in some cases maybe not. So the easiest or safest thing is probably to uninstall this. You should have this option here. I'm actually uninstalling version 8.2 now that I have already installed. But that's okay. In your case, you'll be able to uninstall maybe version 8.0, or if you have version 7, you can probably just leave it there, as long again as you keep it in a different folder from where you're going to install version 8. So here I'm going to actually go through the exercise to uninstall. There are some files that are shared, well, not necessarily shared, but they are OCXs, and by their nature they could be shared with other applications. And it shows here in which folder this one's located. I'm going to say yes, let's remove that. It's part of Artist. There's another one, and you know what, there's probably about 9 or so, 10 maybe. Let's just do yes for all and uninstall them all. So these are files that are no longer needed or used. They're not used by other programs. They are installed in the Artist PD Artist folder, and the uninstaller wants to make sure you don't accidentally remove it if by any chance it might be needed by other programs, which is not the case. So let's finish this uninstallation. One more thing I would encourage you to do also is to go to Program Files or x86, right? If I'm on a 64-bit version of the OS, and find the folder. Now it might be under PD Pro or Project Dogwafle, whatever the name is of the folder where it was installed. You see here I have PD Artist, PD Particles. This one actually was installed under Artist. So you can go in here, and there might be one left or maybe a few more files left. Be sure to back up anything that you might still need or want to use in the new installation, especially things like plugins or external add-ons. But here I'm going to right click and delete, or I'm going to perhaps just select it and hit the let's select the folder, there you go, and hit the delete key to remove that. Alright, so now I don't have that folder anymore, and I can go and install the new version 8.2. And so now here I'm in my folder where I downloaded the file. Actually, this one is a slightly different name than what you might see if you order it from our BMT Micro store, but it's the same file. So this is the installation, the installer for Artist 8.2. It happened to be release candidate 23. And let's go. So you could right click that to run as administrator. I don't think that's really necessary. You might need to do that if you have UAC, user account control, preventing the installation. So that could be a second resort. You also probably will be okay just double clicking that. So let's go double click it. And here we go. So this is the installation of Project Dogwafle Artist. And let's click on next. And notice where it's going to install it. If you see this x86, that's an indication that you are running a 64-bit version of Windows, but it is installing it in the folder which is typically dedicated for 32-bit applications, and this is what Project Dogwafle is. And we will use the folder here called Artist by default. You can always rename that if you prefer, but if you have other versions, older versions, as I showed earlier, you might want to uninstall them, or make sure that you don't install in an existing one. You can always browse here if you want. Let's go and take the default and click next. And Project Dogwafle Artist will be just fine for the name. We keep this as a program group in the Start menu folder. We typically want that. You could check this if you didn't want that, but most of the time we really want a Start menu folder or a subgroup there. And then click next. And one thing I also recommend as a shortcut is to have a desktop icon. That makes it faster to double click it and run it. But of course, if your desktop is littered with a lot of other tools and other icons, maybe that's something you can skip. I will check it here and click next. And that's pretty much it for preparing the installation. I'm ready to go. Let's click install. And that will go and take probably about a minute or so. Maybe less. It really depends on the speed of the hard drive, or how cluttered it is, how fragmented. There's quite a number of files. I don't know how many, more than 100 for sure. But it's going to take a little while to install. And let me pause this quickly and recapture, continue recording when it's done. Still recording. Almost done. There's a couple of OCXs, registering a bunch of files, and installation almost finished. Now this thing here will open up, and it will remind you that the program should run as administrator to avoid any problems with UAC or others. And it's a good idea to actually set that in the program. So you could right click the icon that's now on the desktop and set the property to run as administrator. But we can actually do that here for you. So I would just go ahead for this program that we just installed to have the flag run as admin. Just go ahead and do that. If you don't want that, close it here with the X. But here it is, and then click on finish and you're done. Okay, so here we are. I'm going to move that desktop icon into this window just so we can see it a little bit easier. So that's the one that it placed on the desktop as part of the installation when I checked the option to do so. And running this will now launch PD Artist. And there it is. I'm going to make it fit my capture window a little bit better at 1280 by 720. And so here's what you want to verify in case you also have Artist, a Dogwafle Howler. If you have an earlier version of Howler that's still installed and you want to make sure this is really running Artist version 8.2b, a couple of places you can check. First of all, it should show Artist 8 up here in the upper left corner. And you should also see this icon here that jumps or swaps the swap image. This one jumps to the swap image. So if you put something like this is number 1, and then you can click here to toggle, and this is number 2. So this is, or click this button to go between main buffer and swap image. So that's one way you can verify that you're running 8.2. This was not in 8.0. And then the other thing you can see, of course, on the help about should say about Artist, and it should say specifically Artist 8, and down here Skyox egret, and there it is, 8.2b. So the 3 is sort of the generation, and generation 3 version 8.2b, and that's the latest as of today, March 9, 2013. All right, time to have fun and start waffling and painting.